So both these cameras are absolutely incredible, and I'm going to give you my rundown on using both of them and see which one might be best for you. Cheers. So this is a 4-year-old camera. This is kind of a 1-year-old camera. In my hand, they weigh about the same. I don't notice a big difference. Where I do notice a big difference is the fact that this one's so much longer, and I have to put on this little adapter to make it even longer. So a lot of this weight in this Insta360 V3 is quite high up on the camera. So if I'm using my typical POV mount, which is kind of an elastic band setup, it does tend to bobble a lot more, and it does look a little sillier when you're coming down the hill with this giant 6-inch type projectile coming out of your helmet, where this is a little more compact, a little more discreet. It doesn't have that length. Although it's the same weight, it's lower down. So I find this is a much better camera to have as a POV type camera. I give it to the GoPro, really like it. Another thing about the Insta360 V3, along with that long length, is the fact that these little GoPro mounts, action camera mounts, aren't built into it. So you have to get kind of an adapter for it. I find that super annoying. It's so nice when GoPro had these things built into it. Makes it one less thing you got to think about when you're taking it on the hill, and this just adds that extra length. It's almost double the height. Both have screens, they're both very good. I think the Insta360 is actually a much better screen, again, because it's newer, but also I found that in mountain biking, it's early in the season skiing, I haven't had a chance to use this too much snowboarding or skiing, but with mountain biking on those bright sunny days, the screen was very, very hard to read, like to the point where I didn't know if it was on. I kind of had to put my hand over just to see if it was on, and that bright sunlight on it was very tough. The next thing is kind of the button configuration on the outside of these. So the button configuration on this is pretty good. They have some elevated buttons, but they are tough to feel when it's kind of out of sight, even with bare hands. So I kind of always take off the helmet to see and make sure the light's on and everything. And then the start button for this is a little circle on the front, not really raised too much. So it takes kind of somebody that's familiar with Braille to probably be able to feel this. I'm never comfortable doing that, so I take off the helmet to press that and to turn it off. So that's kind of annoying. Where this one, there's only one button on the top. It's pronounced pretty good, big red dot on it. It's you can feel it very easily, and you can set up the beeps on both, of course. But yeah, I give it to the GoPro on that one too. Audio, I found with the GoPro MAX, it has dual microphones, just like on this, but the position of the microphones usually leaves one of them covered, so blocked by the wind. So I think it's smart enough that it actually figures out that using that microphone gives you the better audio. So that's something that I find is better on the GoPro MAX, even though it's an older camera, like a 4-year-old camera. I give it to the GoPro MAX. The Insta360 has good audio, but what I find is that these little muffs are super annoying to have on there. I had to customize this little piece that I had to order. So I had to cut out a little notch to be able to put on a lens cover, where this one just has individual lens covers that once you get used to it, you just smack them together, put them in a pocket that you always know they're in, and they're safe, and you can plop them on real easy. This thing comes off pretty easily. A lot of times when I'm pulling in my pocket and stuff like that, so that's kind of annoying. And these wind muffs are another thing that's kind of annoying. The thing I hate about all these action cameras is the price of accessories you have to get after you purchase this $600, $700, $800 camera. It's annoying that I have to pay 25 bucks or 20 bucks or whatever it was for these little muffs that go over the microphones. If your action camera, this is for both, if your action camera does not have good enough audio and you need to have the muffs on it for things like mountain biking, skiing, snowboarding, anything where you're moving a camera, which is most action sports, just include them. Just include a windscreen of some kind, a piece of foam and a piece of Velcro. Don't make people have to do it at home. I think that's super annoying. And even with these muffs on, I find because of the orientation of the microphones, they're on both sides. So when you're coming down the hill, you're getting that wind noise. What I would recommend is tilting it that way, but then your seam line is going to be right down the center too. So I kind of like to have it so one lens is capturing the most of it and the seam is going to be outside of your field of view. So if I put it that way to make the audio a little better, I'm going to have a seam running right down the middle. Even though it's pretty good at stitching them together, you're going to see something there, and that's kind of annoying to me. So for microphones, audio, I give it to the GoPro MAX again, just because of the orientation of them. I have one that's always out of the wind as much as it can be behind the screen, especially if I tilt it up and have that lens capturing the action the way I like to. That one on the back is clearly out of the wind, and I don't even put on the muffs on this, even though that would probably improve it. If I was talking more, I would probably do that, but that's one of the things I just find kind of annoying, is the orientation of the microphones. Getting into kind of the post-production of these two, I've had enough experience on this one now using the Insta360 software on the computer and the GoPro player software on the computer. Both are fine once you get used to them. It's not a big deal. They have their own characteristics and workflow, but it doesn't take long to figure it out. The one thing about the Insta360, I found mountain biking, again, I haven't used it too much skiing, but it's the same problem skiing, is both of these record in 360 and frame in 360, and both of them have a version of what's called a world lock, where you can have it locked onto something, and no matter where you turn, it's always locked onto it. And you can turn that function off, and that's called, Mark Matthews taught me that early with this one, and it saved me a ton of editing. But it's turn world lock off, and that will take the frame that you've made out of the 360 and it will hold that frame on the camera. So as the camera's moving around, it's acting like a GoPro and following whatever that frame, whatever you were looking at. And that's a really nice feature that both of these have in the software, but the GoPro's is better. It turns as if you were wearing a Hero camera. So it's capturing it and very little smoothing out of it. But since it's a 360 camera, it's pretty smooth footage anyway, so I prefer that. Especially if you're like mountain biking on tight trails where the camera's going real quick, you want to have it follow you, follow where you're looking ahead on the trail, because that's kind of the immersive feature of a POV camera. And that's what I love about this, is the editing workflow after. This one has the same thing, world lock off, but in order, I can see what they were trying to do. They tried to make the footage smoother, so the transition's smoother, so that if you're looking down and you're just carving back and forth and kind of mostly going in a straight line, it smooths it out so it looks absolutely incredible. You're not having more jitters, which is nice. But if you're doing tight turns, spins in the air, even mountain biking on a tight trail, I find I still have to add keyframes in the editing software just to allow me to have that natural look to it, which just adds time to my workflow, which is kind of frustrating. Battery life on these, both of these are big batteries. I haven't had any real issues with either of them. When I'm not, like on a day like today where it's kind of cold and you're skiing, you just keep it in a warmer place on the inside pocket, or if it's in your backpack, like closer to your back, things like that. If it's a really cold day, I'll put one of those like little hand warmers in the pocket with them, but there's no need to remove the batteries in these to keep them warm or anything. Both have really great battery life. Again, this is a newer camera. It's a little bigger battery. It's going to have a little better battery life, but it also records at a higher quality than this one. I think it's 5.7K versus 5.3, whatever. It probably balances out. Carry an extra battery, they're cheap, but both of these have incredible all-day battery life, as long as you're not recording long things like this, but POV stuff. So battery, kind of both are great. So final thoughts on both these two. I think GoPro has an amazing camera. It's been so good. It's been bomb-proof. I put it through everything. I know professional riders and skiers that use this one, and it is absolutely incredible. It's been good for a long time. This is also a very good camera, but I think GoPro has a huge opportunity with their Max 2 to outshine Insta360's V3 for sure, because they're so close now. I can't imagine how good a Max 2 can be. So hopefully they are listening to their athletes and making a version 2 that is going to be absolutely amazing. So I'm really looking forward to that. For which one you should buy now, it doesn't really matter. If you do a lot more POV stuff where it is on your head and you are doing a lot of turns and things like that, I still think this one's going to be the one to go to. It's going to be my go-to. I really, really enjoy it. If it is lower light or you need a longer battery life or the higher quality picture and the better seam stitching, I think the Insta360 is the one. So if you're not doing action sports per se, or it's always on your head or your chest or whatever, and you're just using it to use as a follow cam or something like that, get some really interesting shots or some slower moving shots, this is the guy to go for. It does deliver that super high quality footage. So that's my thoughts on the 360 cameras. Yeah, get out there, make something.